Hello and welcome. You're watching India.com Z with Jigyasa Sahai. And today we are in conversation with the very versatile and talented Ashwati Nair. Hello, Ashwati, and welcome.
Thank you, Jigyasa. Hi.
So, congratulations on Manorathangal. It's there on Z5 Global and it's already making waves, and people are loving it. I think it is one of Abhi tak ka one of the a very refreshing take of of human life, human emotions. Matlab, वैसे तो it's pretty general and very relatable, but again, a very fresh perspective, if I have to say. So,
Yes.
kudos to that.
Thank you so much.
I would like to start by asking from where it probably started for you. So, you have been in, like, you are a dancer, you have also dabbled into other professions. So, how and when did you decide to, transition into filmmaking?
Well, it happened quite by chance. And yeah, I was busy as a dancer when COVID happened. And then uh, we all were stuck at home, not doing much. And then I happened to see a series, Stories of Rabindranath Tagore. And then I was quite inspired. I thought, this is a very nice idea. My father has written more than 300 short stories. So why not I try and do something like that? So that was the seed that started this whole thing. And then I never thought I'd get into production or anything. I just thought I'll just, sort of put together this whole thing and then give it to people who are interested in making it. And that was my initial thought. But as I traveled with this project, I ended up being a creative producer. My company did the line production, like the shoot execution, and then yeah, I also ended up directing one. So it's been quite so everything happened quite by chance. Nothing was planned except for the one fact that I wanted to put his stories in the visual format out there for the global audience. That was my aim. But just that when I travel with it, these things just happened. So yeah.
Right. I mean, and I also think that sometimes when these things happen just by chance and spontaneous, then they turn out to be very beautiful. So, and that's how the stories the have come out on the visual front as well. So, talking about the stories your father had written, I'm sure it must have been a task to choose, which ones are we going to feature, right? So I'll not ask ki, how did you decide ki what all things should be there, but I would rather ask like, was there a criteria ki these things I don't want? We'll focus on this. Like sometimes what I do is like choose something by eliminating things. Okay, so like there are five, seven things, so not this, but okay, so we are going to do. So how was that like?
Yeah, the selection was very tough
Yeah.
because yeah, every story is different in one way or the other. So the criteria was um, to make this anthology as diverse as possible. Like each story should be unique and no similarity in theme.
Right.
That was my criteria. So that made it a little easier. And then I wanted stories which he had written in his early days, like 1959, 60, to the last few short stories, like 98, 99. So, for example, Sherlock and Karcha are the last two short stories that
Right.
he's written. After that, he's not written. He's written short stories, but not ones that are as popular as these. So that was the primary criteria. And then I wanted, one, for example, Abhyam Tedi Veetum is a very different story with so many layers. Like, first time you read it, it's just about a man coming to a village in search of a place to live. Second time you read it, you know that this man is in search of something and he's waiting for something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Who is he waiting for? Is it actually a person or is it something else? So every time you read, you sort of get different things, you read different things into the story, into this narrative. So I picked stories like that. Then Shila Likhitam again is a story which looks like things happening in a village. And villagers generally, we feel, are very innocent people, very naive, you know, that sort. But this story completely changes that perception we have. So I wanted different stories like that, like what people haven't read about probably. Of course, Malayalis have read, but the non-Malayali population. So when you present it to a global audience, it's important to show the the diverse themes that a writer is capable of handling. So that was also one of the criteria, to show how much or what a different world, how many different worlds he has created as a writer.
Right. I think that's very, very rightly put. And at the end, as you mentioned, that it's important for, these stories to come out on a global stage and understand that there are so many worlds that one person can write about.
Yes.
So that's true. And, speaking of the film and the story, so the reception has been quite good. Like people have, really liked it, probably because they were able to relate with the human emotions and the nuances. However, like there were these conversations that how, few things were a little slow paced. And that could also be because in today's time, like especially the Gen Z, they want everything to be fast, right? But one must also understand that these stories are played in a different timeline. So
Yes.
how are you taking the reviews? And like, is there anything that you would do differently now?
No, I wouldn't do anything differently because I feel each story. So that was one of the discussions we had when we started this project. And I told the producers very clearly, if we do the stories, we will stay true to
Yeah.
the period that the story happens,
Hmm.
because that it's very important for the structure of the story. If you remove that and place it in a modern setting, that won't suit the mental makeup of the characters. So it's very important to stick to the period that in which the story is set. So I said we won't change anything, and let people understand that there was a time like this
Yeah.
where life was slow paced, people had time. And yeah, I know, see, when you do these things, it's very hard to satisfy every cross section of the audience. I'm completely aware of that. And I think we've been very lucky that a lot of youngsters did come out with, very positive reviews as well. So to a certain extent, we've been able to, sort of touch them as well. But then there will be people who, who like only fast paced. And especially now you see a huge profusion of violence in movies. Now, this is one project where you don't see anything like that.
Uh-huh.
So that is again, I was really tense as to how people are going to take this in this day and time. But yes, it's been very heartening to see the reception. Yeah.
Shruti, like as a I really want to understand as a female director's perspective. In today's time, there is a lot of conversation in the youth about the sort of, they have become very particular about the characters, how stories are being put, what message is being sent out. So, as a female director, how do you like to portray your characters? I mean, if asked, would you ever like to direct a character like, if I had to name like a Kabir Singh or an animal or like a damsel in distress, would you ever go that way?
Personally, I wouldn't. I mean, I would like to. I think there is an underlying reason for that. One, yes, being a woman, that is definitely there. Two, I've been raised in a family where women are given a lot of space to make their own decisions, to walk their paths. Both my parents, and I've grown up seeing that. I've grown up in that kind of an atmosphere. So it's very difficult for me to imagine something else. So even if you take the film that I directed, Vilpana, you will see that Madhu's character, Mrs. Geeta Parekh, is undergoing. She's the victim of an unhappy marriage. She's stuck in an unhappy marriage. She is on the verge of depression, or she's rather in depression. But it's a very thin line between depression, and then going beyond that into an unstable state.
Yeah.
So I tried to maintain that line. And at the same time, towards the end, in the climax, you see that she's managed to accomplish what she wanted to do, at least 5%. She's managed to irritate her husband, and in that way, take a small revenge on what he's been doing to her. So for me, yes, I was able to relate to the characters, one, especially Geeta's character, because I'm a woman. And I'm sure there are hundreds and thousands of women around us who are stuck in similar situations who will be able to relate. So, given a choice, yes, I would like to show my female characters as somebody who have a mind of their own.
And I think I totally agree with you. And I think that is also how, because anyway, stories in every format, visual, audio, written, they always have an impact. So I think that message, that image
Yes.
of women also needs to go out. So I think
Yes.
that's very nicely put, Ashwati. So, just to wind off, my last question would be, from this entire, experience of directing the film for the first time and working with such a star-studded cast, such amazing directors. So if you have to pin it down to one, what has been a one most exhilarating and one most challenging aspect of all? I know it must be difficult, but if you have to just pin down to something.
The most exhilarating thing was, you mean in the process, right? The process
Right,
of
the entire.
making it. Okay. Meeting Kamal Hassan sir. Because I'm a huge fan, and I had met all the other actors before. So in Malayalam industry, pretty much all of them. So Kamal sir is somebody I had not met. So when he agreed to do the narration, and then I had written the narration points that he speaks, I wrote those lines, and then they asked me to come for the shoot, and then I was there, and then he walks in, and I was speechless. He came and greeted me. I just stood there staring at him. I was like, that was a fangirl moment for me. That was, yeah, so that I'll never forget that. Yeah. So, and then the most challenging would be, well, there was a time when we actually thought we wouldn't be able to shoot Sherlock because, our passports were in the Canadian embassy when the Ukraine war broke out. And they shelved all other visa processing and they opened up for the refugees. Canada started taking refugees. So, and Fahad had given us dates in between Pushpa and Vikram. He was acting in two films at the same time. And our visas getting delayed meant he wouldn't be able to join. And so that was, I think, one of the toughest crisis that I went through, just trying to get the team's passports and visas approved. And it was literally a nightmare for 3 weeks. And yeah, it was, I think, I almost thought I'll have to shelve that story. It was almost there. But luckily, well, we didn't have to do that. Yeah. And we managed to go and shoot. Yeah. That was the most challenging, I think.
That's great. Like I said, everything falls into place. And when you have your head and heart in one place and determined, things do have. When you manifest it, it happens. That's great. So thank you so much for talking with us, Ashwati. It was a lovely conversation. And thank you for being so honest about all the questions as well. And looking forward to more of your work as a director and more such films, refreshing takes coming on screen.
Thank you, Jigyasa. It was a pleasure talking as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.